So, we're going to be talking about isms, so prejudices, and kind of how a prejudice can have a strong influence on you and what you choose to do in whatever shape or form that is, and maybe also how we can try to break these prejudices. And maybe I'd love to hear from everyone if you've had any stories about prejudice where you've had a very negative reaction, but you've actually turned it into something very positive and stuff. But before I start with all the talk, it would be nice to kind of maybe go around the panel, and if you can just introduce yourselves again, so that if people haven't met you before, at least they get a little introduction. Chantel, would you mind?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Chantel Koning. I make clothing in the day and play music in the evening.
Hannah Reed, producer and pianist and writer.
Hi everyone, thank you for coming this evening. I'm quite excited to be here. Thank you, Cece, for having me. My name's Arfa Butt. I'm a freelance music and talent director and also a youth development consultant.
I'm Jess Partridge. I run a magazine called London Stereo and also work at PRS Foundation on their new European Women in Music project called Key Change.
Okay, great, awesome. So the way that it usually works is that I've sent these ladies some questions around topics and stuff that I want to talk about within the topic, and so I guess if I'm just going to give you a little bit of the background of where I'm coming from, besides my own experiences, is I guess what I'm trying to everyone experience prejudice fairly often, unfortunately, and I want to kind of look at what is it that creates prejudice with people, and what it does to people, and also how we can kind of try to break out of it. And I kind of feel that there is like typically three types of attitudes within prejudice, and one is they call it an affective component, and it involves a person's feelings, emotions about the attitude or object. I'm scared of spiders. The second one is behavioral. It's the way the attitude we have influence how we act and behave. So I will avoid spiders and scream if I see one. And the last one is cognitive, and it involves someone's belief, the knowledge about an attitude object. So I believe spiders are dangerous, and there's a few ways that we can approach these, and also there is maybe hopefully after this discussion, and there's no right or wrong, and that's why it's really important for me that you guys get involved in the discussion, and maybe we can see what experience you guys have had, if there's any way that we as a community can try to avoid, and how we can find solutions of actually breaking some of these situations that people tend to end up in. So my first question was, what isms have you experienced?
So a lot of my friends, they tell me I have shantyisms. So I make up things. But today, actually, I was waiting for the train, and there were these two little boys, and they looked at me and they were like looking at my hair, and they were like making these gestures. In my mind, I'm like, these little mofos. I'm thinking in my mind, what prejudices have these kids been taught? Because I was offended at the actions. It was only when I looked at my phone and I realized that I rubbed my makeup and my eye was black. So in their mind, I immediately thought they must think I look like the chick from Pirates of the Caribbean, hence the reason they're scared. But that was...
Did you ask them?
No, I just looked in the mirror and realised why they were scared. But I'm from South Africa, so I grew up with apartheid, sexism, ageism, hairism, whatever you want to call it. It's the world we live in. You can, I used to let it frustrate me, but I actually don't care. So, yeah, just that. That was my ism today.
I mean, my ism, like I briefly touched upon, was, I guess, sexism. Racism too, to a certain extent, because I'm Indian, so people kind of don't know what to do with that, you know, and especially because people look at me and they're like, oh, you're Trini or something like that, and I'm like, no, I'm Indian. I'm like straight up South Indian, and people don't know what it means, what box to put me in. So I get asked so often, why don't you have more Indian influences in your music? It's like, because I don't listen to Indian music, man. Like, why do I have to prove to y'all that I'm Indian when I know I'm Indian, I make a mean curry, and I got a crazy ass Asian family, you know? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, and these are things, again, people never mean, but they're just like, oh, you should just add, why don't, I get asked that at radio interviews a lot, why don't you have Indian influences? Because that's not the music I listen to. It doesn't make me a bad Indian, you know? I'm Indian, like, I don't need to prove it to anyone. So that's an interesting one, and I feel like you're saying the same with sexism. It's the world we live in, and all I can do is try and smash through those barriers, man. And with that, I need to keep my head down and work hard and get my skills up, and that's all kind of... I feel very much like it's my responsibility, you know? Like, I take it very seriously, the whole being a female in the business, and yeah, and I'm going to do whatever I need to do. But it's more about me knuckling down and working on my craft, to be able to be compared to the best people in the world, be it female or male.
For me, my experience is very much like Hannah's. My family from Pakistan, and I remember making my first beat on a Commodore 64 in my early teens, and forget anybody else in the community, I remember my dad's a musician, I remember my dad saying to me, are you going to make a career out of that? And then I went and bought an Amiga 500, and that was my baby. And I think I must have been about 14, 15 years old. Now for me, music is definitely part of my youth. I remember my dad having jam sessions in the house and just sitting there watching everybody. But I also wasn't interested, very much like you, wasn't interested in Asian music. I'm a hip hop head, so for me it was really about finding something that I could connect to. I then went on to study radio broadcasting and sound engineering for a year. But when I turned 19, I was offered a role at MTV to manage MTV Base. I didn't go in there as an intern or an apprentice. I went on there, in there as somebody who had knowledge of black music. And I was the expert in black music, and I was only 19 years old. Everybody in my team was over 30 and were not people of colour. So not only did I feel like we create, or we have a culture as women of colour where we create barriers for ourselves. We don't necessarily have a support network, but the people that we do are usually men, and we need to take that. And we need to take that support. But also, one of the most important things for me has been throughout my career, and this is my 18th year working with MTV, and I can honestly say everything that I do is based on relationships, whether it's here in the UK or whether it's in the US. My work took me to Mauritius in 2015. I'm going to be going to the Caribbean, all because of the work that I do. And I think we have to, as women, I really feel like there needs to be a support now, but also how do we create opportunities for mentoring? Do we create opportunities within the work that we do? Do we have, Jade is a young lady who used to work with me, and she came in as an intern. I feel like it's so important for us to be honest with the younger generation about the issues, but also the great things that we learn in the process and what we can learn from them. So I can honestly say I've been extremely blessed to have some good people who I've kind of looked up to So the isms don't really make a difference, as far as I'm concerned.
Well, yeah, I think that there's a lot of points, especially relating to sexism, which are relevant to many people in the room, including myself. And something that Hannah, you touched on earlier, was classism. And that wasn't something coming into the room that I'd really thought of. It's actually something I talk about quite a lot. I came from a really working class background, and when I moved to London, I didn't have anyone supporting me. I lived with people who worked in music who did. And I saw, and I was so frustrated at the opportunities it brought them. Like, just not having to work until 6 a.m. in a bar. Like, the difference that made to them, and them being able to progress in their career was incredible. And I was so jealous and so frustrated. But, yeah, I guess if I was going to impart knowledge to the younger generation, I would say that just keeping at it and keeping very true to what I wanted to do allowed me to succeed, and also not be swayed by maybe opportunities that weren't right for me. And I feel like you can get to an even playing field.
Yeah, that's great. I think yes, isn't, we can choose how much we buy into them or how much we let them affect us. But at the end of the day, when you're exposed to an ism, I think it will affect you, because as far as I know, most isms has a negative attachment for me. So even if I don't let it get to me then and there, and an instant reaction, but it will definitely, just like you, Hannah, make me work a hell of a lot harder, and make me, as I'm older and progressing in my career, I also decide what I'm going to be working with and when to say no. And that is also a very important part of not just, oh, you're a jazz singer, I don't have to pay you more than 50 quid or whatever. But if I was a classical singer and singing at that same wedding or whatever, then they would have easily paid me $250. So yes, I agree, you choose how much you want to take part of it, but I think it's important to acknowledge it and also share these stories. I guess my second question was, how did these isms affect you and your work? And it doesn't have to be a negative, it could actually be in a positive way. Do you want to start? No, you can start.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm not entirely sure on my response to this, and I was thinking about it.
Yeah.
Apart from making me work incredibly hard, and also connect with networks of people who have experienced similar isms, which is definitely a positive point. I don't know how it's affected me positively related to this.
I think I touched on it earlier, but very much like you, I think it's really about creating a safe space for ourselves. Something I spoke to you about earlier. I'm really passionate about mental health, not just for creatives, but for young people and communities. And this past week, I've been on a mental health first aid training course for adults and for young people. And one of the key things that came up was we are harder on ourselves about issues that we have to deal with than others are, and we are judgmental and we're afraid to speak our heart. And one of the first things I do whenever I meet someone, even if I don't know them, is, hi, how are you doing, how is your heart? And sometimes you can ask someone how you are, but you don't necessarily care enough to want to go into detail. So around the isms, I really feel like one of the major conversations we should be having is how they affect our mental health before our physical, and how we can create a space for us to have those conversations as creatives. And we talk about therapy, arts therapy. How many creatives in this room can honestly say that they've taken part in art therapy, and honestly how it's affected them? Because for me, music is definitely therapy, but if you can't find music, you know, there's loads of other avenues that you can go down, but do we have a support network who can share and contribute to our well-being? It's really important.
For me, I think I've just learned with all the isms, I've just kind of learned that a lot of the rules they're not real. It's like people make these rules in the industry, and again, I can only talk about the music industry, about what you're meant to do and who you're meant to work with, and what your dream is meant to be, you know, having a number one with a girl band or boy band or whatever, and you fall into that trap of being in the rat race, and all of a sudden you think, like, but I don't even like that shit, you know, like, why is that meant to be my dream? Like, and I really had to, like, check myself and realize that my dream, I'm living my dream. Like, I make a living making music, dope ass music with my friends. That is the dream. Hopefully it'll get bigger so I can, like, pay my rent on time. But you have to break free of these pretend rules, because they're just pretend, man. These are just some peoples up top making up these rules and trying to, you know, and you know the whole kind of, you get email, can you do this? If no, we'll go to someone else, then go to someone else, isn't it? Like, or people come into my studio and be like, we want someone, we want to sound like this producer, then go to that producer, like, you know, and it's meant that I've lost a lot of work, because I'm very kind of, you don't come to me to get a style of production. You have to trust me that we together, I will do what's best for you to the most of my ability. And therefore, you know, the singers that come to me, it's quite a small clientele group, you know, it's like repeat offenders, really. People come back and we keep trusting each other more and more and more, and we come, you know, we get hot shit. But it means that I don't get sent to, like, all the big sessions, because I just don't want to play that game, man, because I think that game is like, I don't think it's a winning game, you know, and I had to, nobody tells you this. Everybody pretends that these rules are real, and you have to follow them to get there, and you get there, and there is not even a place. It's nothing, you know, so it's like seeing the Matrix, isn't it?
Yeah, but I guess this also maybe a part of what I'm trying to kind of, maybe in a bit forceful way, but like trying to get out when, I mean, I went to the Royal Academy of Music in Stockholm, and we spoke about this earlier, like for 3 years there and 1 year in New York, and the only thing that really taught me anything about the music industry was when I went out and did 3 jam sessions every single night in New York. That taught me more about the music industry and the platform that I was going to be working on than anything else. And yes, of course, a school teaches you tools and all of this, but I think it's really interesting to kind of like, okay, what is the real deal, you know? Because I think as I've grown older, I started with music quite late. I was 26 when I started, so I kind of feel I was a lot stronger than the people that were 16 that I went to school with in New York. I had a direction. I didn't know exactly where I wanted, but I knew what I wanted. And I think, so whatever isms that I ended up, you know, like, yeah, she's a girl, you know, we're not gonna, no, she's okay, nah, you know. So yeah, you can handle them better.
One of the things that you touched upon earlier was being in a space where you value yourself and your craft, and how do you, I guess, speak about it. In my experience, having worked within the industry behind the scenes, I never spoke about the work that I did, but people saw the work that I did. And I think it has to come to a point where you are comfortable enough to say, you know what, I did that, and I did a dope job, and you should be praising me for it because it was a great job. Rather than saying, you know, whoever did that was great, it must have been a man. And I've heard that before, and I think within the workspace, within the music industry, that has to change. But it can only change when we have, or create, and I guess support opportunities and information, definitely.
I think when I started London Stereo especially, so I was 23 and I was setting up a magazine in 2013. You know, who sets up a print magazine in 2013? I did. And for the first, I had a male deputy editor and I still have a male deputy editor who's much older than me. And for the first 2 years, everyone assumed he was the one behind it. Like, they would direct questions at him, they would copy me out of emails, and he would have to constantly copy me back in. And for a long time, he denied that it was an issue. You know, I was like, no, this is a thing. This is an ism. And I think part of it, though, was definitely my lack of ownership. Yeah, people were acknowledging him more, but it was definitely partly down to me not saying, hey, this is mine, and I've done it really well, and I'm really proud of it. And when I did start doing that, and you know, you can blame it on the amount of time that we've done it, or you can say that I started owning it. But when I did start being really proud of it and open to praise, yeah, it was amazing the difference in people's reception to me.
I think Cindy can hang with me on this one. In our hobby, there is definitely some isms going on in terms of in the vinyl box when it comes to digging. Yeah, you know, as DJs, you know, you'll have a killer set, and then people will still be like, "Are you DJing?" Yeah, you know, or they'll be like shazamming all the songs, won't speak to you, won't, you know, or stand at the decks waiting for you to make a mistake and go, yeah, she's a girl. Yeah, it's boring, boys. It's really boring. It's so boring, and you guys are responsible for that. So you guys can make changes.
Yeah, and I think it's important not to put everyone under one, but I think if we're going to talk about taking responsibility, you know, then yes, I think in certain cases we need to talk to young men like you guys, you know, and make sure that you understand what we go through, because I don't assume anyone from a set go, you know, would want your sister to earn less money, or your girlfriend get groped at a festival, you know. So we just need information, and conversation. Yes, absolutely. So I totally understand, but what do you do about it? Like, how can we, do you know?
It's really not up to us anymore, because we're doing stuff. We're turning up, we're carrying the record bags up Oxford Street Station stairs, you know, help us off there. We're doing it, we're turning up, you know, what else should we do? You know, we're being active, we're making beats, we're having conversations, workshops. At the end of the day, the industry circumstances is against us. It's not allowing, even if we just think about the music industry, in the world in general, as human beings, just to survive, to exist, is hard work. So, you know, all we can do is just hopefully just turn up, have good dialogue, stay in contact, be positive, because that's, as human beings, ultimately that's what we can do.
And maybe come together and talk about things and build on a community that we could keep on educating ourselves. I'm only giving it to you for 5 minutes, maximum.
We all want to. Well, it's funny, whilst everyone's talking, I'm like, there's 4 amazingly talented females, all different stratas of the entertainment industry talking. I was quickly going on Google to check out the gender disparity in the music industry to get some facts. And in 2016, festivals, for example, had 20% of female representation in terms of, you know, artists, musicians, singers, whatever. So there is a problem. It's not just our perception and our moods. There are facts out there. So it comes to the point where, you know, in the current climate, we talk about sort of gender roles. I've got a 3-year-old daughter, and it's quite important to me to understand how we naturally sort of assign roles to gender. You know, the way you know, naturally I've already bought her shopping tools and little dolls. Well, I haven't actually, but just for the sake of the argument, you know where I'm going with this, it's that kind of thing of we all naturally kind of format women into a particular role and men into another. So I read an article the other day about there was a gentleman that got sacked from Google, I think, or some high-tech company because he suggested that women just aren't really made up for engineering and IT. And you know what? In a way, I understood exactly what he was talking about because, yeah, there aren't that many in it. But what he failed to understand was it was the way we nurture our children from day one, and why so many women refuse to go into those roles because of all the boundaries and because of dickheads like him suggesting that, you know, women can't necessarily have a binary mindset and an engineering mindset. So with all that in mind, how do we kind of take that forward? We have to be thoughtful, and, you know, this is when I say hashtag not all men crew. Yeah, that's all you hear, because you're here for Cecilia Stalin's event, so I know that you are respectful of what's going on here. You are the not all men crew. You are the men that matter. We love you, you're our people. You need to sometimes think about the natural sort of format we all fall into, myself included, and sometimes just take a step back and say, actually, maybe she can do it. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you, I saw you, Ian, and this lovely gentleman hovering around. I'm a sound engineer. I did a diploma in it because I'm so fed up of having men twiddling knobs as a DJ, but I decided to get some more confidence. And we were talking about this earlier, like, oh, I bet them guys are twiddling knobs. And Hannah, who is ridiculously, like, so astute with, she's got a studio, for God's sake. I think she knows what she's doing. I think she knows what she's doing. And we sort of had a little joke and said, let's go over there and hover there. You know, honest, God's honest truth. Because this is the sort of thing. Now, I'm not saying that you guys were guilty of that, but I'm saying that the only person around that sound system who was qualified, if you look at the CV and the track record, was Hannah. And you know what? She was the calmest person in the room. Oh God, she's done Wembley and she's done these little gigs. But she took it calm because, as a woman, that's what you have to do. We spend a lot of time, the mental overload of having to take on the knowing that we're always going to be doubted for our talents and what we understand is always there. And some of us do it with good grace like Hannah, and some of us don't. That's why I've got a big mouth. So yeah, I'm just saying, men, not all men crew, whether you're online or here, take time and think, you know the reason why Cecilia's here, or Shanti's there, or Hannah's here, or Arfa's here, or this lovely lady I've got her name is because she has a right to be here.
Jess, can you tell us a little bit about what you guys do at PRS Foundation, and do you have any, like, do you guys look at, like, gender? Do you look at, oh, thank you, and do you look at, yeah, what are the different kind of parameters that you might be looking at to maybe avoid isms?
Well, when we're talking about practical things that we can do to challenge these isms, so at PRS, I've only started working there in the last 6 weeks, but I've been brought on to run their new program, which is kind of off the back of their Women Make Music program, which is what Hannah's part of, which is a fund only open to women to help them achieve various projects, whatever musical projects they're looking at achieving. And Key Change is trying to go a little bit further than that, creating a network of 60 women across 6 countries, and musicians and industry, who will be taken to festivals across Europe to address the gender balance and talk about issues relevant to this. So yeah, PRS Foundation has a lot of different funds that are based solely for women. There's loads that are open to everyone as well. But it's in response and it's recognizing a very real issue that Cindy was talking about.
I have a question. Yeah. So
the Women in Music Fund, how many women are on the team that are managing that? Because I feel like there are a lot of funds created for women across the creative sector, but the people managing those projects and those funds aren't necessarily women.
I completely agree with you, and I think that there is a big issue there as well, especially as it's becoming more of a talked about issue, buzz issue that people want to see themselves being positive within. But at PRS Foundation, God, it's like 7 women, 3 guys, and the CEO is a woman. It's actually my first time ever having a female CEO, which is really exciting for me. So yeah, loads basically.
And so I'm curious about all the kind of aspects of issues and prejudice and stuff, but within PRS, besides fronting women, do you have certain grants for young people or people of color or people over 35 or like or seniors or like is there other?
Yeah, there are. There aren't any that are aimed at people of color, but the actual grant giving process has meant I believe it's like 45% of the money has gone to people of color. It's definitely something that's very talked about. There are people of color on our team. It's not just like a white team either. And there are grants which are aimed at people starting out regardless of age. The Lindsay DePaul Fund is an example of that. It's just small little grants for women who are literally just starting, no management, no anything, just to get them off the ground. And we find that the people applying for that are such a variation of ages, and it's really exciting to see people who are older and excited and want to start doing something new because it's not a barrier. And there are other funds which are aimed at older musicians as well. And there's a lot of classical work as well.
Do we have any questions at this point in time? Anyone? No? No? Okay, cool.
Can I say something?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, thank you very much. It's an honor to be with such accomplished women here. I had, what I can say, that your own barriers. I am a business owner, single mom, and I've run my business now for 6 years, and my child is 6 years as well. So through that whole time, I guess I've faced many isms, especially being in a spa business, not in the music business, but in the spa business you obviously get involved in lots of sexism, but especially when I was building my business, which we built from scratch, when we had to go through building works with builders, etc. So as a woman in that first part and then what came after, it's been a constant fight. But once I gave up the fight, once I realized that it was me, myself, building that barrier to me, having an expectation that someone thinks that I'm a woman and I can't do my job in front of builders, in front of other, let's say business partners or investors or anyone coming to me, when I have an expectation, I build myself a barrier and say this is what it is kind of in a way getting on mine, and I had to go through that process of understanding that my isms were also a reflection towards other people as well. So once that changed, once I let those things go, the whole energy changed, and business is blooming. It's going really nice. And once I kind of let go of other people's prejudices and let my heart shine and do just what I love to do, is what brings out the creativity and brings out the business forward. And so what you said, what can you learn about these isms? Is that's what I've learned, is that you just listen to your heart and let go of this.
Great. Are creating communities, and I just would like to see if you have any ideas or feedback or any stories or any any people that you've helped, that you've seen like turn something really nice around, or yeah, it'd be great to hear. And if anyone else has anything that you'd like to share, it would be amazing. Thanks.
I'd like to start with talking about the Amy Winehouse Foundation. I don't know if anyone knows about the Amy Winehouse Foundation. I've been a consultant with them for about 3.5 years. After Amy passed away, her dad opened up his studio for young people, and they run a 12-week holistic music industry program twice a year. And I run a masterclass, a personal development, networking and communication masterclass with them. And I can honestly say, every single young person that comes into the program has no idea how great they'll be. They're talented, but they've never expressed themselves creatively. The program isn't just about becoming an artist, it's really about becoming a human being and someone who is passionate about the arts, but also just providing opportunities for young people who from disadvantaged backgrounds who don't necessarily have the support network or have parents who can afford to send them to music schools. One of the positive things for me out of the program has to be learning from the young people. A lot of my work for the past maybe 10 years has been around young people. I recently became a school governor for an alternative provision school, which is for young people, a school for young people who've been excluded from mainstream education. And they're there because of behavioural issues. They're there because they're misunderstood within the home, but also within the community. My biggest, I guess, concern is we have, we buy our young people, our children, technology, but we don't understand it ourselves. Who are the role models? Who do we promote to our children? What conversations are we having within our homes with our children? And I think positive aspect for me about the Amy Winehouse Foundation is a lot of these young people who are vulnerable have come through these processes and have come onto this program, and the results, they had a showcase last week, and they blew me away. So I think before we judge anyone, let's understand what their needs are. And the same applies for us as adults. Sometimes we view someone and we already assumed what kind of person they are. Let's have a conversation. Hi, how are you doing? We have to create, I feel like it's so important for us to create that culture, because if one person does it, I'm sure somebody else will view that and say, you know what, I can do this too. It's about, I really feel like it's being comfortable expressing who you are and not being afraid to just vibe and share energy with people.
I think one thing for me, I know it's a bit off topic to what you're saying, but in terms of what I can do, what we can do to help this issue is, I sometimes feel like, well, there are roles assigned in the music industry, right? And like with chicks, it's like you have to be hot and you have to be this and you blah 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 blah. And I used to feel really uncomfortable with that, because like I have loads of singer friends. I'm not a singer, therefore I'm not a frontman, therefore I'm very geeky and happy behind the keyboards, happy in my tracksuits, whatever, you know, like. And it used to always make me feel like I have to dress up to when I go somewhere. I have to, you know. And I kind of realized again that's just me perpetuating that whole that thing that's expected, and then I expect it of myself, and then I get uncomfortable, then I start, you know, like, and it's kind of like it's all long, man. So I've kind of now just been like, I am who I am, and I'm comfortable in my own skin, and it might not be like my other female friends or my other female artist friends who are like quite extravagant and that's not me, I'm more in the background, but that's okay too. Like, you know, the many times I've kind of come to a gig or whatever, and I've been like, I'm not gonna get changed, I'm just gonna rock in a t-shirt and jeans and whatever. Like, we have to, I'm trying to not have a big difference between Hannah B the performer and Hannah Basant the person. And I think that's something that's really important to me. Like, it's not about music, it's about everything. It's about being comfortable in your skin, and therefore being able to allow other people to be comfortable in their skin. And therefore we have to own our faults as well, do you know what I mean? So it is, and that's something I'm really trying to just implement more and more.
One more thing to add. I feel like it's about finding your identity and understanding yourself and your needs before we project that on somebody else. Yeah.
Just quickly, it's something we touched on, but mentorship. I know that Andrea and the She Said So Network are launching a mentorship scheme, but just taking time in our day-to-day lives to help and talk to, especially other people who might experience isms, understanding where they're coming from. And so for me, as an editor, I always try and take time for my writers, especially the female writers who don't often come to me for help. I find the male ones more regularly will come and ask for career advice or a contact or something like that, and just making sure you're taking the time out to really give back, because it'll make the world a difference.
Yeah, and I think when you look at, I've read a couple of articles too about psychology and how people act, and it's proven that if I'm in my social group, I will value my social group, I will prioritize my group more than any other group, even if I don't have as much connection with them as someone else. And that's something quite interesting to kind of ponder upon. Also, I will be able to see bigger differences within the group that I'm in. So I can see differences in the people in my group that I can't see in the other groups. So again, my understanding of other groups are not as great, even though they have the same differences as my group. And these are things I think it's really important that, that we take into consideration when we move about, not only in life, but in music and when we meet other people. And not assume that everyone is just like you, or that everyone understands the world just like you. And I think, as one of you said, like being really humble to the fact that just because someone looks different than me or has a different look or whatever, that they would be not know what I know better, or So I think just looking at a little bit about how we can approach things. I had written such nice little comments. No, but I think what they mentioned, how can we minimize prejudice? Being more empathetic and training people to be more empathetic, and making sure that the four closest people to you are the people that will define you. So make sure that their closest four people are as empathetic to situations.
Can I just add something to that?
Yeah.
Also, I think I grew up in Germany, and my dad grew up in Germany, or was in Germany in the 70s, like crazy racist. And I kept asking my dad, like, how was it growing up racism? He's like, don't know what you're talking about. I was like, what do you mean? Like, I still see it to this day. So you being in Germany, what do you mean? He's like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. And you know what? The lesson I learned, man, Ray Charles to the bullshit. Do you know what I mean? My dad doesn't even see it, and therefore it's not there, and therefore he's just running around doing his thing. And I get pissed when I'm seeing people treating him a certain way or whatever. He doesn't see it. It doesn't affect him. And so it's kind of like sometimes I preempt it. I go into a room and I think we were saying that anyways, and I think, oh, now they're going to definitely treat me different because I'm a girl, so maybe I have to curse more or whatever. So that we go into rooms where you just have to do you, man.
Yeah, but at the same time, did you see that Dove commercial?
Which one?
So Dove did this commercial, and they asked, I think, maybe 6 women and 6 kids. And they said, oh, can you run like a girl? And all the women were like that. And then they asked the girls, the little girls, run like a girl. And they were giving it like all they got. And they were like running like the fastest they could. So I think there is presets within our system, and I understand because it's part of your experiences. So yes, we have to be better and like, okay, whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
And I must say, this is actually one thing that I learned at the Royal Academy of Music. And we did some kind of acting things, statue role games or play games or whatever it's called. And they gave me, they asked me to walk into a room and pretend that I was applying for a big band role as a singer. And so I went in and I was like, hi, my name is Cecilia, yes, and then he's like, okay, cool, now you go out again and I'm gonna give you a mantra. And he gave me the mantra, I can't say it here, but it was very sexually explicit. And so he said, but one thing, you cannot let it show in your face. And I was like, oh, okay. So I just walked in and I was like, hello, whatever. And when he asked after, who would you like to hire? They all picked the second one. Because my mind wasn't on trying to impress them. Because I had already won. Because I had my mantra. So I was like, I'm a winner. So, yeah. Maybe that's the way around it. I don't know. Or like,
It's a combination of everything, isn't it?
Absolutely.
A couple of things. First off, dealing with isms. I think that because a lot of this stuff is really ingrained and, as you say, emotional, quite early on, you have to kind of deal with it at an emotional level, create an emotion that counters it strongly. And there are different ways for different people. Film is a great medium. I think a lot of people will be affected by Detroit when we see it. I just read the Underground Railroad, and I really thought I knew about American slavery, and I probably would never go to a state that flies a Confederate flag again, and I just totally get what's going on. So that's the business. The other thing I was going to say is, my wife has a company that fights isms. Actually, it's a publishing company. They write children's books. It's called Rapscallion Press. She does it with two others. So it's a publishing company run by three women. It just happens to be three women. Their first book was about, Mommy, how was the world made? Daddy, how was the world made? Well, and they give you two kids going around the planet asking different people how the world was made. It's a journey to the beginning of the world. And the story they got in China was clearly very different to the story they got in India, and so forth. And the point there is that you're teaching kids that there are different truths for different people, but you have to get that people have their own stories, and you have to respect those stories. But it kind of sets you a little bit back from the truth and realizing there are different truths. And they've done the same in a few other areas. If anyone's interested, they go into schools. They must have done about 15, 20 schools this year. They go in, there's one for International Tolerance Day, and they taught people to spot kids, from 7 to 12-year-olds. Also how to spot fake news if you're being confronted with fake news. How do you notice fake? What do we do? So there is a company trying to fight isms, writing nice books in the process.
I love that.
So anything you want to share, anything that you do that has a great initiative and stuff, please post it on the Facebook page and we can share it on. Yes, go ahead.
I just have one more thing to add after what you just said. Everyone does have a story, and one of the things I've learned on the mental health courses, first aid courses, listening non-judgmentally, and how we allow people to tell their stories, and how it affects us is not necessarily how it affects them when they're telling us. So listening non-judgmentally across all sectors, but also allowing people to speak what they need to is really important.
Yeah. Hi, I've got nothing to say about myself.
What's your name?
Jay. My name's Jay. Hi. It's a pleasure being here as well, by the way. I want to touch on the ism thing. And first I want to say all isms are isms, full stop. Racism, sexism, ism, whatever it is, it all comes from a separation in thought process, and it breaks off into sectarianism, another ism. But the root of all isms is skepticism. Skepticism, because when you're skeptic, I believe in one thing, I think in one way, and because everyone else or someone else doesn't, I'm skeptical as to how they think. I don't see it how they think, so I'm going to stay skeptic and not understand who they are. So the root of all, no matter what kind of ism it is skepticism, and the only way to overcome skepticism is through trying to understand someone else. And the only way you can try and understand somebody else is through love. That's a lot. No one's mentioned love tonight, and I want to mention love because love is the root of all healing. And to be able to deal with sexism as a woman, like there's so many deep-seated things in each of these isms that stop people from connecting with each other. Racism, you can see it on both sides. One side is racist because they don't understand the ethnicity and the culture of the person, but inside of the culture, they don't understand themselves. You know, so they're portraying what they're being prejudiced against, what their prejudice is, they're portraying it anyway. So no, and in sexism, women can make themselves sexy, sell themselves based on their image, their sex image. So they're still buying into sexism just as much as everyone else. The only way to deal with any of these isms is to, like I said, go back to love. Love and learning how to love yourself properly will deal with all of these different forms of isms. And the only way to deal with that is through spiritualism, you know? And it's another ism, but it's not even a real thing. I just made it up. People make it up. There's no such thing as spiritualism. But connecting with your spiritual self will teach you how to love yourself, and in turn teach you how to love everyone else. So it actually doesn't matter how hard we fight or what we put in place to deal with the ism. It will always be a friction, you know? And we're never going to deal with the root of the problem as long as we create this friction to try and fight a system. The system is the system. Like you said, who gives a shit about ism? No one cares about the ism. Who cares about is ourselves, you know? Like, take away all the ism, take away what everyone else does here. We are all human beings, we are all souls. That's the thing. Do you get me? So how do we connect as souls? Forget everything. How can we connect us? How can we learn to love ourselves truly? Because love is unconditional, you know. And as soon as we understand, as soon as we get to that bit, that's it.
So how do we get people there?
We get people.
How do we get people to all love ourselves?
Depending on where you're at, not everyone understands love, you know. So people hear love and think that you're being airy fairy, but they don't really know what true love is. So it's a bit hard for them to grasp that concept of through love we can overcome all these things, because they're so used to, no, we have to fight against it, love ain't healed anything. But you've never tried it, so you don't know, you know?
Yeah, but how do we get everyone to love themselves?
We get everyone to love themselves by stripping away, by not concentrating on what the system is giving us to be able to distract us with, like the isms. Not concentrating on isms and backtracking and sitting down in places like this and creating more atmospheres like this, creating more scenarios like this where we can get together and reason and be like, okay, yeah, this is how we can do it. You've got this skill, you've got this skill. Actually, we're no different. You love, I love. You want to push this, I want to push this. What's the difference, you know?
Love to you, young man.
Yes.
And don't need to be patronised.
Don't be I don't patronise at all.
You've got good genes, so you could be 70. So. Isms are there for a reason. Stereotypes are there for a reason because there's been experience. I mean, all these lovely ladies have talked very politely about it. I mean, respect to you. I don't have to because I'm on the panel. So I'm not on the panel. I'm in the audience. Sorry. Charlottesville. Do I need to emphasise the reality of what happened? Heather Hayer died. With respect, isms mean something.
with respect. There are reasons why so many people in music specifically have spoken on the greats, Bob Marley, Marvin Gaye, Stevie Wonder. I mean, every black music artist you can imagine, and white artists and all other races have spoken on this for a very long time because they are socio-political narrators of the history that we live in. So yes, I do understand love, 100%, and I'm here for love, but I can't buy into sort of the ignoring aspect of it. There are reasons why we're talking about the sexism in the music industry. There's reasons why we're talking about the... Sorry, go ahead.
So I will tell you a bit about myself then.
It's not about explaining yourself to sell yourself, but to talk about the topic, because I'm not centering myself in this discussion, I'm just talking about the reality of the world.
I'm speaking from experience,
okay,
that's why I'm going to be saying it about myself, not to boast, I have nothing to boast about. Yeah? I was a massive part of the Black Lives Matter movement in the UK. I've been to America to go and stand with the Black Lives Matter in America. I've been a part of youth work. I was a youth worker for years because I myself have been to prison. I've been part of drug dealing. I've been,
no disrespect. What's your point? Just because we're
the point is love. I didn't all of these stuff that we're fighting against. I didn't say that they're not issues. I said that we're not dealing with them in the way they should be dealt with.
How will we deal with them? To guide you. I'm not even trying to argue. I'm trying to say what should you do?
Through creating spaces like this, coming together and speaking, vocalizing it. Everyone gets their chance to speak. Everyone gets their chance to put their point across, and not just bring up the issue, speak about solution. Speak about solution.
Okay, so bringing it forward, because that's kind of what I spoke to Cecilia.
Action. So I didn't take away anything from anybody.
Let's talk about the action.
The action, like I said,
you seem to have something to share.
Like I said, you've got to come together in spaces like this and create atmosphere for people like
and
this.
That's what's happening.
I didn't take that away from anybody, my dear. I'm actually agreeing with everyone. Like
so
I said,
what should we be doing?
Like I said, I didn't finish.
Okay.
Thank you.
We're listening.
Thank you, everyone. What we need to do go not just with what you're doing. Like I said, create spaces like this, which is what I said, and get together more. Everybody needs to not just go away and dwell on what the problem is. We need to create more of these sort of things where the spaces are given for people to come together, because out there where people don't see this, a lot of people that are out there. This is my only point, you know. This is my point. I'm not taking away anything from anyone. I'm not disagreeing. I'm not saying that everyone's point is not valid. I am a young black man, like I said. I've experienced the same bullshit that everyone else has experienced. Yeah. So I'm not taking away anything else from anyone. I'll probably experience it in ways that no one understands, but that's not the point. I'm saying that this is great what we're doing, guys, and let's just remember love, you know, because compassion, love, these are the things that are going to heal the situation.
One of the things Cecilia and I spoke about earlier today was inclusive conversations.
Yes.
Yeah.
And who are the right people who should be present when we're having those conversations? People affected by the issues and those isms need to be present within those conversations. In my experience, whenever I go to a conference where it's about young people, there are no young people present. Whenever it's about women of colour or people of colour, there's no people of colour present. How do we change that? These spaces are great, we're having these conversations, but how do we access those communities, engage those communities, and listen to what they have to say? Because what they have to say is valid.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that this is a platform for all of you to take that conversation individually with whether that's Brexit or whether that's, you know, whatever happening.
We need to be writing to our MPs, that's what we need to be doing.
Yeah,
if you don't know who they are, trust me, on your borough website, on your local borough website, you'll find the details.
But listen, the information is there. Yeah. There are even people out there who write those emails for you. I've been a member of Amnesty International since I was 11, and you can take that responsibility. And you can walk out of here and start that discussion. You can create a safe place for you and your friends or whatever, and start that conversation about empathy and love and understanding, but also how to move forward with the reality that we actually do touch on on everyday basis. We cannot, I totally understand what you're saying, and I agree with you, because I really do believe that if everyone had a pure heart, we wouldn't have the bullshit that's happening in this world.
In this space, none of these problems matter. In this space.
No, but I'm just saying, but we're still facing reality every day, and we need to know that we're here for each other and all of this, and that's what this creative community is all about. But we also need to take the responsibility. Can you please give it up for everyone on my panel? Chantel, Adam, Arfa, and Jess. And also, not to forget, this amazing space. Please give it to Anna and her crew. Thank you.